At Fever Tree, we think whether it's a gin and tonic, a delicious mule, or a sparkling Paloma, if 3/4 of your drink is the mixer, shouldn't it be made with the finest ingredients, mixed with the best? Fever Tree.
What has happened, Post Shifters? Welcome back to another episode of the Post Shift podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Shawn Soole. Today, I am very, very fortunate and excited to be chained to basically the matriarch of bar brand ambassadors for the whole globe, Miss Charlotte Voisey. She's an amazing human being, educator, touring all over the world. But recently, she took over as executive director for Tales of the Cocktail. So I'm really interested in getting down to the direction of bar shows, how the culture is changing, how you as a bar show can adapt to culture, and sort of grow from there. I really need a producer or someone on the show that I can get to do all the button pushing, so I can just focus on things sometimes. Welcome, Charlotte. Thank you so much for your time.
Hey, nice to meet you, Shawn. Thanks so much for having me on.
I didn't make it Tales this year, just with things the way it sort of played out. Tales has got a special place in my heart, that's for sure.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I know that.
One of the original bar shows, like when you're 29, 30, when I first went to Tales, like it was eye-opening to say the least. To go to a show like that in like 2009, 2010 and experience something like that was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, I remember those early years too. I think my first Tales was 2006. And I mean, suffice to say, it's changed enormously, right? Hopefully in all the right ways. But yeah, it was, I think it evolved as the industry evolved. So the snapshots during the years of Tales and the people you would meet and the things that we'd get up to and just the seminar topics and all of that, it's sort of night and day to where we are now.
Yeah, so you're one of the very first, as I said in the intro, one of the very first true global brand ambassadors. There's only a handful back in the day that were like the first true like global brand ambassadors. Angus Winchester, Simon Ford, yourself, traveling all over the globe. What was it like when you first started? Because you sort of had to create a role for yourself. And then how has that changed over the years to your time when you left Hendrix?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's always exciting for me to think back. I mean, in those early years, I was fortunate because those guys that you mentioned, I think started a little bit before me. And certainly Simon Ford over in the US, he'd just moved to New York about 6 months before I did. He kind of paved the way, honestly. And he was working in gin and I was working in gin. So it was good to have a few mentors like that kind of immediately around me. But, in the best possible way, we were kind of making it up as we went along. It was like, you've got this like great product and you've got to make bartenders fall in love with, in my case, Hendrix. It's like, okay, that sounds like fun. So let's just do like cool stuff that they'll enjoy, making sure that, Hendrix is front and center, throwing a few cucumbers and, all joking aside, it felt like it was a lot simpler in those days on one hand. Because you didn't have the concept of brand ambassadorship wasn't as developed. So you didn't necessarily have like your leaders or higher ups in these companies truly understanding what the role was, which was this great opportunity to go ahead and do the cool stuff that we knew bartenders would like because we were bartenders. And I was fortunate because when I was hired, the guy that hired me, Mackie, for William Grant & Sons, he was like, we need to bridge the gap between bartenders and corporate brands. Mm-hmm. And to do that, we need someone who understands bartenders, i.e. a bartender, and that's you. So that was always my vision. And I always try to keep like one foot in the industry and one foot in the company. And I think that was one of the reasons that I was able to enjoy the job and do it well.
I think that's the perks when you're starting out something that doesn't actually exist. All the PR, marketing, and salespeople are like, we're really quite not sure what you do yet either, so we can't quantify what your KPIs are right now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I think we rode that wave for as long as we could. But again, like some of those were the times when like just great things came of it, and education was always important. Like we didn't take ourselves too seriously, but we took like the respecting education, respecting the craft, respecting the need for people to like acquire skills and knowledge. Like that was always at the heart of everything we did. And then you can have fun with it. then you can kind of do crazy whimsical things around it, as long as bartenders are getting the chance to like advance their careers if that's what they're driven to do.
Do you think that education model, when it comes to brands like abroad across the brands, that education has changed, especially post-pandemic? I always laugh nowadays because of the cocktail competition rage, where it's like 10 years ago, if you're a big supporter of the brand and you really sold a lot of their products, you'd get a trip or you'd get like something special out of it. But now you got to do an Instagram influencer thing or a cocktail competition. And I'm like, it's great for the younger kids to be able to do that. But I'm like, hey, I'm just loving your brand for 20 years over here. Like, can I get some love? Do you think that education model has changed in the brand scheme of things, especially post-pandemic?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we were rebuilding something quite big, right? In the sort of early 2000s, really for 15, 20 years, it was bringing back the cocktail and everything that came with it. So education was important, understanding glassware, ice, like basically taking Jerry Thomas's book and bringing it all back to life, because it's all in there, right? Everything that we think is a new trend, it's all in there. So there was a lot of work to do to like reinstate the classics, the fundamentals. And then I think post-pandemic changed a lot, right? Society, the way people communicate, the way that marketing in general is done, the way that liquor brands were understood. Consumers were making drinks at home more. They started to kind of understand a little bit more about what they were doing. And then a lot of people left the industry. So post-COVID was just a completely different landscape. It blew up a lot of opportunities, I think, and there were definitely some silver linings, but it created a lot of gaps. And when you've got experience gaps, you need to plug those with education. But then you've already got an industry that's moved on from the marketing side. So it became a little harder to drag back resources into some of those grassroots things that we used to do, for sure.
So when it came to you being on the road, I remember, I think it was 2009 Spirit Awards. There was a whole brand ambassadors say. It was
so good.
yeah. And one part that you had was like, oh, I'm flying to New York today. I'm going to do a luncheon and a martini dinner. Then I'm flying back to the UK. I'm doing something with the Queen. Then I'm flying back to Los Angeles for this. When your travel schedule was so crazy, because we always do look outside looking at global brand ambassadors, go, oh, you got such a great life. You're doing this and this. I'm like, I've done some like massive stints of like travel back to back to back to back, and it's tough. How did you balance that sort of like work-life balance out where you could actually turn up fresh and still be engaged to do a great seminar, but also know that in like 6 hours, you got to be at the airport?
Yeah, it is. And, people don't see that side of it, right? I mean, I know some people like to post their airline delays on Instagram, but I was never one of those people. I think for me early on, I understood that kind of, as I call it, holy trinity of sleep, diet, and exercise is really important for everyone in different ways. Right. And I was hanging with some of these big names who would go out and party a lot harder than I ever could. Right. Just because I wasn't built in the same way. So I learned early on that it was OK to do what I needed to do. Right. So I prioritized like making sure I exercised on the road. I prioritized eating healthily, and I prioritized sleeping as much as I could. And I didn't give in to FOMO. I just kind of made that decision of, listen, I'm here to do a job. If there's extra time and space to do like some fun things on top of it, great. But my job happens to be fun. And I was getting like that enjoyment through what I was doing anyhow. So it's not as if I felt like hard done by if I came off of a trip and I never actually got to do anything but work, because the work was engaging and fun. So I definitely put that as a priority first, like in the early years, and sort of never looked back. It's still really important to me, and I always try and advise others to do the same. But everyone's different, right? You have to do what's right for you and not give in to peer pressure. And I think the industry's come a long way now. Yeah. Like it used to be pretty hardcore in those days, but I think now it's okay to talk about wellness openly and how different people have different needs. But travel is tough. Like just getting from A to B is a massive drain on you physically and mentally. And then to your point, you have to sort of land and be on. So I think you need to understand what it takes from you and how to replenish that so that you can go again. Because, and again, in those early years, we always used to talk about what to do to get by or to survive. But I would always think, I don't want to just survive this thing. Like, I want to enjoy it. I want to thrive. I want to be able to do it for as long as I want. So you have to like build in some sort of long-term parameters and safeguards for yourself.
So how long were you within Grant and Hendrix before making the transition over to Tails?
18 years.
Wow, that is
Yep.
incredible. What was the driving force behind this transition from William Grant over to Tales of the Cocktail as the executive director?
Yeah, I think, I honestly just loved my job at William Grant and Sons. It evolved over those 18 years. I really enjoyed what I was doing, really respected the company and the brands and the people I worked with. And then you start to think, am I going to be doing this forever? And realize that, I'd learned so much skills, experience, networks, etc., that I had so much more to give to this industry. And the Tales of the Cocktail opportunity as executive director kind of gave me this spot where I could use everything I'd learned with greater impact, perhaps, because I'd get to work across many different brands and suppliers. I'd get to work all across the globe with different organizations. And that really appealed to me, as well as the chance just for a change and to grow and learn in a different area. I mean, working for a nonprofit in the US is completely different to working for a global drinks company, I can tell you, in many different ways, right? But that growth and learning, I think, kind of eventually pulled me out of my comfort zone, which was very much my role with William Grant Sons. I loved it, but I was excessively comfortable, shall we say.
The executive director position for Tails come to you, or did you go to them, or just one of those, your relationship with the Tails organization that sort of just was like, hey, we are thinking about this, you'd be perfect for it, what do you think?
Yeah, it was kind of more like that. I've always been very close with Tales of the Cocktail throughout my career, and more recently as my role as the overall chair for the Spirited Awards. So I had a very close relationship with Eileen, the CEO of Tails, and the full Tails team. So when you're having casual conversations about things that are happening, it was kind of came out of one of those conversations that Eileen sort of brought the idea to me, and then it resonated, and then here I am.
That's incredible. So Tails has been around for I think just 20 years next year, right? 20 years next year.
It'll be more than that. So what was it? 23 years, I think. It was 2002 was the first one. So, but then do you count the COVID years? So I think COVID has messed everything up, right? It's like, I've lived here for how long? Oh, I forgot about those 2 years that we all
It's just a Mandela effect.
Yeah.
How do you think Tails is continue to evolve? Because we talked about it in the green room a little bit. Like, there's literally a bar show or a bar week every other month. Like, if you go to Danelle Nevsky's like indie bartender calendar, it's like insane. Like, you can go 3 bar shows in the same month if they're close enough. How do you see Tails sort of evolving to be more for the modern bar culture that we've got right now in North America and the world?
Yeah, so I think the great thing about Tails, which I want to protect and evolve, is the framework of the content at Tails. So everything from the educational seminars to all of the tastings and even the brand parties and the foundation events that we put on, Spirited Awards, Catalyst, those types of things. It's all different every year, right? Like, we actively seek out what are the educational touch points that people want to hear, need to hear, what's trending right now in our community that we really should put on the grander stage or amplify through our platform. So every year that content changes, and it doesn't come from us, right? Like, we put out the seminar proposal period, which incidentally is coming very soon already. And, last year we got over 400 seminar proposals. That's 400 independent ideas from the industry of what they wish to come to Tails and talk about. And within that, there are patterns, right? And there are sort of clusters of similar topics. But it's the industry sort of saying this is what the industry should be hearing or what we want to be talking about. So every year we have that luxury of latest thinking that we're able to bring to the industry. So our job is to provide the platform, provide that framework, make sure there's a good distribution of topics between like history, techniques, some hands-on stuff, some wellness stuff, some business advice. But within that, it organically and naturally changes, evolves every year to keep up, to keep pace with what the industry wants. And in many ways, anticipate what's coming next, right? When you've got the thought leaders of the industry coming and talking, they're usually the ones setting the trends, or certainly at the forefront of the trends. So that's, I think, the role of Tails, is to provide that platform. And it's truly is the global trade show, right? Yes, there are many around the world, but it's that one moment where you can bump into someone in that same corridor from, Australia, Japan, all over the US, and countries you've probably never heard of as well, right? It's a catch-all in the most beautiful way for the entire industry.
We were mentioning in the green room that I was talking to John Crew, and he was mentioning like 50% of people that were at Tails this year were brand new, which is incredible.
Yeah.
For someone who's been going there for so long and seeing the evolve. How's the new generation of bartenders taking training? Because I find I get a lot of pushback from a lot of, and I'm going to say older generation bartenders, the ones that had to go to the seminars that you put on if you were in town or like visiting, and it was a bit more of a, not a struggle, but a bit more of a grind to get information for the industry. And I feel like these days it's also digital, and it's on your phone. You can watch it on Instagram or TikTok. The younger generation, and they're saying the younger generation don't want to be trained, which I definitely disagree with 100%, completely. How is the response for the young bartenders who are going to Tails now to go to seminars instead of it just being a big party?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I'm really enthused that the data we're getting from this year's Tails reporting shows that seminar attendance was really healthy this year. Like Monday, we kind of sold out of all seminars. Tuesday and Wednesday were great. Thursday was a bit of a drop off, but I think there are so many great offsite events on Thursday. So to your point, kind of gave in and went to the parties instead on Thursday, which is fine. But generally speaking, we had really healthy attendance at seminars, and that's across the board of different topics. So I think there is something about the kudos of a Tails seminar. And it's not just the fact that, you get great cocktails and everything sort of set up well, but it's that diversity of topics and the chance to hear from a variety of speakers, right? We have a lot of panels now at Tails. I mean, in the olden days, it was somehow me talking about tea cocktails for 90 minutes by myself, which must have been just terribly boring for those that came, or maybe people were taking naps. But now I think we've kind of put a lot of effort into curating panels of 3-4 people speaking about one topic from completely different perspectives. And I think that's something that we've seen feedback from the younger generations, or at least first-time attendees, better put, that they appreciate the range of perspectives on a single topic. And I think that's something that we really want to continue putting the effort into making sure each seminar has that. But the range, this year it was interesting because we had Dale put on a seminar with Joe Baum's son telling his story about he got started in the industry. And, at first I'm thinking, well, everyone knows that story, but it's no, 50% of attendees probably don't know that story, right? It's time to start telling those stories again while we still have these legends, in our midst and excited to tell those stories still. So it's all about having the right mix, I think.
I actually had Dale on the show a couple of weeks ago, and it was, it's Dale. I'm getting goosebumps just saying I had Dale on my show, because I'm still that 26-year-old Australian kid who moved to Canada in the 2000s. But I do agree. I find being older in the industry now, I feel like there's basically 3 mini generations. There's the early guys, the Dales and that sort of thing, the Wondridges, and I sort of sit right in the middle. And then post-pandemic, these young bartenders who got into, a lot of them, I call them baby pandemic baby bartenders, the ones that got into it because they were stuck at home, and all of a sudden they were like, well, I can't go to university. I want to get into bartending. And they've come out of it being super passionate and super hungry for knowledge, but they're still so young and they don't know a lot of the pre-pandemic history of a lot of things that have happened in the industry.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I'm involved in Bar 5 Day, right, in the US, and part of when we do sessions on categories, we'll talk a little bit about the history. And I found myself this past year talking about the modern history of gin from 2000 to now. And I was literally kind of telling it in the first person because I was there. I was like, wait a second, I lived through this history. Now I feel old. But it's true. so much of like the evolution of spirit categories, you kind of stop at prohibition, but it's like, no, so much has changed, and not just about sort of bartenders and cocktails and recipes, but production methods, distillation techniques, like the way that categories have evolved. I mean, look at Irish whiskey, the way it's exploded. So yeah, recent history is a really important thing to be sharing. And now, to your point, we're kind of that generation that gets to talk about the history that we witnessed and were a part of, because it has a big influence on where spirits are today. I mean, that's kind of cool.
It was very good. Social media, of course, Facebook always reminds you of like, oh, remember when Angostura got delisted by the liquor board, or Campari shortage because of the pandemic? Yeah. Or I remember when Ramazzotti hit the market, that sort of thing. With Tales looking after like this massive ecosystem over the week, and we're not just talking about the educational side of things, we're also talking about tasting rooms, parties, offsite events, because I know everything gets like put into the same ecosystem.
Yeah.
How do you balance that out? Balancing like it not being a massive party, but having epic parties. Like you've always been legendary at your parties. How do you balance that all out in the ecosystem of Tales?
Yeah, it's a beast, right? There's over 400 events on that schedule over 5 days, right? It's a lot. No one's supposed to go to everything, obviously. And I think what we do is everyone's excited to be at Tales. You know, it's a lot. It's very concentrated. We sort of encourage all of that, but at the same time, we try to balance sort of the schedule. So there's always going to be more than one thing going on at any one time. That's never going to be avoided, but we try to balance it out throughout the week, so that every event has a chance of good attendance, which it always does at Tales. That's the one time recruitment is never a problem. But also so that people have a chance to truly mix up and have their own experience. But honestly, like half of the onus is on the individual to really look at the schedule and map out what they want to do, right? Like think about like what's your education, like try and build it from the ground up, right? What's the education you really want to access and see? Who do you want to hear speak? What topics are you interested in? And then are there things you want to taste? Because you're right, some of the tasting rooms are like a once in a lifetime opportunity to taste things you'll never see again. And then you have all of these big events. But actually, it's a sort of a trick I learned this year, because I had a very different Tales experience, right, this year. Was the art of going to some of these offsite parties for 30 minutes, having a good time, kind of seeing some people, having the highlights, and then moving on to the next one, which is like a pattern and method I've never employed before. I did it because I wanted to see as much as possible. But obviously that comes with a lot of discipline and a lot of drinking water and trying to tick things off. But yeah, I think everyone needs to sort of understand the schedule. You're not going to go to everything, so prioritize what you want to see, but then also like leave a couple of evenings where you can just have fun and go with the flow, because half the magic of Tales, as you know, is bumping into someone, walking around the French Quarter and ending up at dinner with them, and it's all fine, right? And maybe you didn't even get to that big party, but you know what? You had a really nice conversation and a meal sitting in a chair on a plate, which is, you know, unheard of. So it's a mixed experience for sure.
That's what I did last year. It was the first time I didn't speak. I got a pass for everything, and I just went with the flow. Woke up when I wanted to, did my stuff when I wanted to, because I don't think I've ever done, actually there was 1 or 2 seminars, but I was on a panel. Every seminar I've ever put in for Tales and got approved has always been the very first seminar of the day. Every single time. Every single time. And I'm like, I feel like people are just seeing my name and going, yeah, you're at the 10 a.m. slot or the 9:30 slot when the first seminars get started. And you know it's just people are gonna drag in when it comes. But last year I had a great time just because I didn't plan anything. I just completely went with the flow, and I had some incredible experiences.
Yeah, and it depends where you are in your career, right? Like you're able to do that. I could do that theoretically in a different role. But if you're coming for the first time or you've got a mission, right? Because a lot of these younger bartenders are like, I want to come and learn about agave spirits. Therefore, like you could do only agave through Tales, right? For 5 days, just pick out all of the seminars, tasting rooms, events, parties, people, book signings, whatever it is. You could do like a whole agave themed Tales and not even touch anything else. In fact, that's a pretty cool idea. We should look at.
It's another like little schedule thing. Here's your favorite spirit, and here's all the things you should be doing.
That's a great idea, actually. Yeah, like a specific track, like an infographic or something where you put in your priorities and it spits out a suggested agenda. I like that.
speaking of great ideas, this year was this year the first year where you could check in at the airport?
Yes, it was.
I saw your photo, and I think I saw your story, and I literally messaged you when I saw that. I was like, that is a fucking brilliant idea. And
Yeah, it was a great idea.
the idea actually happened with working with the airport.
Yep. Yeah, it was fantastic. It took a little bit of work, and interestingly, we're already talking to them now about next year because we have big plans to go even bigger next year, right? Make more of a thing of it. But it was really fun. I think first of all, people just appreciated the convenience of it, right? You land, there's always a 20-minute wait at that airport for your bags, right? And everyone's checked their, spinzel and and liquor and bitters and stuff. So everyone's checked bags. So it's like, yeah, come and register for tails. It was just a fun thing to do. So I think it went really well this year. It was fairly late addition to the agenda, so not everyone knew about it. And we actually got a few, not complaints, but like comments of, I didn't know about this, and it would have been super fun to do. It's like, but next year, we'll make a bit more of it and make sure it's more accessible to even more people. But yeah, super fun. I think everyone loved it.
Are you finding Tails has always been a massive thing in the tapestry of what New Orleans is?
Yeah.
Like back in the early days, those first couple of years, especially just after Katrina, like I remember getting in cabs and talking about a cocktail festival I'm going to, and the cab driver's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And but one of the only decent like cocktail bars back in the day was Cure, and everybody would hit Cure, and that's what you do. You take out the 20-minute drive. Do you feel like Tails is now sort of really trying to expand that it is part of New Orleans in a way that it's for the everyday person to understand that it's part of New Orleans?
I think, New Orleans remains at the heart and soul of Tails, right? I've always believed, and now is no different, that it's not a coincidence that people love coming to Tales of the Cocktail. It's because they love coming to New Orleans. Like, yes, it's a great event. Yes, we put a lot of work and effort into it, but it helps us a tremendous amount that people come for the magical culture, the wonderful people, the jazz, the food. I mean, it works, right? It's very mutually beneficial because New Orleans in July nowadays without Tails, it would be a problem for the city economically, right? Like it's always been a bit of a boost, but 20 odd years on, it's needed. It's needed desperately by local businesses, hotels, restaurants, everything, right? And Uber drivers, you're right. Like I think last year I was going to the Hendrix event and I got in the Uber and the guy obviously had the address. He's like, oh, you're going to the Hendrix event. And I was like,
that's cool.
Wow, that's super cool. Because he'd been shepherding people like back and forth the whole day, right? He's like, oh yeah, Tales of the Cocktail, as if like, it's when other people tell you about Tales, when you're like, okay, that's cool. Like you get it. And then you just kind of indulge and let them tell you about Tales of the Cocktail. So yeah, big part of the city, really important impact on the local economy. But Tales also really benefits because people want to be in New Orleans. And that's sometimes a lot of the reason that they come back.
Have you applied a lot of the stuff from your brand ambassador days and with your time with William Grant's Sons into this new role? Are you missing organizing just one big party every year and doing your usual stuff, or are you happy with this transition as the executive director and sort of making that move and then using the skills you had with William Grant's Sons and Hendrix in the new role?
Yeah, I'm loving it, and I'm really excited to bring all of those skills and experience over. I've started. There's still a lot more that I need to learn before I can do that fully. So I find myself still chomping at the bit a little bit to get involved and get my hands around everything. But I thought maybe once I get through Tales, then I'll be off and running. But I think it needs to be the full year cycle because a lot of people think that Tales is just a week in July in New Orleans. It's a year-round effort. Not only for the event, but supporting the industry globally with many other initiatives that we do. So I'm still kind of learning and bringing myself fully over to that role. But I will admit, on Tuesday during Tales, when the William Grant Sons party on, I did have a little bit of FOMO, not necessarily in the evening because I went and it was wonderful, but in the afternoon, I'm like, at this time, I'm usually so in demand, running around, everyone's best friend, right? Because everyone's texting me trying to get in. Some people did still text me to try and get in to the William Grant party. I was like, you do realize they're like, yeah, but could you just there's just 5 of us. So I was like, oh, this is hilarious. So I did sneak some people into that party. Yeah, I mean, it's something that I grew myself with the team. Is a big part of my identity. It does take a while to kind of separate off from that. But the great thing is now I get to enjoy and be involved in all of the things that people bring to Tales. And I've really enjoyed that, like working with other spirits and friends in the industry for what they bring to Tales. So it's been really good.
So what's like, obviously, as you said, the seminars are going to start getting opened up fairly shortly. And I know that's usually like a 4 to 5 month process of seminars go in, it goes off to the panels, gets shortlisted, it goes off the panels again. For you personally, what's the next 6 months look, and what are you looking forward to and working on with the team for Tales 2026?
Yeah, so recapping is kind of finished up now. Everyone takes the week after Tales off, come back, get all the recapping done, analyze the data, get all the information out to the sponsors and the broader industry. And then it's really into planning for 2026, right? We do have sort of some space now-ish to step back and have some broader, bigger picture thinking, like the what ifs, and wouldn't it be nice if we could one day do XYZ partnerships, collaborations, thinking bigger. Like now is the time where we have a bit of space to do that before we have to quite quickly commit to some granular detail, because we work so closely with the big spirit brands, obviously, and they need to dial in money in their budgets and planning for next year in order to make the whole thing happen, right? So we have to get to the level of sort of granular detail for them. So there is a lot of like planning and thinking and reshaping that happens now until the end of the year. And then really, the cycle kind of begins again. Seminar submissions will open in September. We'll announce the dates formally, I think, on September 9th for 2026 Tales. And then seminar submissions are open, the reminders, because obviously we have to remind people several times to get them in. And then, the education committee kind of kick in, and that's a bunch of industry people from all over the world who comb through those seminar ideas and come up with some short lists. And it's a lot that goes into it. But then we also work with different brands and organizations on sort of programs throughout the year, supporting brands on their brand bartender advocacy programs, whether it's competitions or educational programs. So there's a lot of work that goes into that as well. There's the whole Spirited Awards cycle, which sort of starts at the beginning of the calendar year with nominations and then regional announcements and social media around that. Like, it's a lot.
So with one thing with there's so many bar shows, as we were talking earlier, and like obviously there's always a lot of requests from big brands to like sponsor events and tastings and so forth. How is that? Because you hear in the media and you hear a lot about like brand budgets are being reduced because sales are reduced and marketing budgets are coming down. How are you balancing that out in this sort of new age of where big brands are going and big brand money is going?
Yeah, I mean, we have really good relationships with the top brands and a lot of the smaller brands too. I think we had over 400 partners this year, all in all, right? Big companies, little brands. And I think it's just about being really open and honest, understanding their priorities, what they need to achieve, and sort of meeting them where they're at in terms of budget, in terms of ability to get things done, their vision for events. Sometimes we can support them with creative ideas. Sometimes it's, sort of sponsorship packages where we can make things a little bit more approachable for different brands at different levels. Like there truly is a wide spectrum of how much money you need to spend with Tales in order to do something, from very little to as much as you'd like. We accept donations being a not-for-profit, so there's a spectrum there, and it is a balance. It's important for us to demonstrate the ROI as far as we can for brands, right? If you spend money with Tales, what does it get you, and how does it differ perhaps from other bar shows? Because we recognize, while I do believe Tales is one of one, there is a competitive set of how else brands can spend money, right, to get to bartender advocacy. So we need to just hold our own and demonstrate the value of being at Tales of the Cocktail, or with partnering with us year round. So those sorts of things, are really important that we try to hone and understand, so we can have open conversations with as many of our brand partners as possible.
Yeah, the ROI element, because I think you combine this sort of same sort of mind frame with pop-ups and brand-backed events at bars and stuff throughout the year, the smaller versions. And just coming back from Vancouver, there's a lot of lack of that post-event ROI sort of data points going back to brands. So like brands will throw down money, but you'll never actually understand what you get from that one. So I can see how just the collection of the data, and you guys have got so much, the RFID bracelets and everything. You've got really good data coming in for every single tasting room, every single event. So I can see how that ROI model has to be. And I hope anybody listening to this does that for their bar. If they're getting sponsorship for bar stuff, that they're giving ROI models and reports back to the brands that backed them.
Yeah, it's really important. You have to kind of demonstrate the value. And listen, a lot of it is intangible. Like I know that leading advocacy for so long at a major spirits company, right? It was always a tension point. Mm-hmm. It's like, making influential people like bartenders fall in love with your brand is a really important long-term strategy. So there might be certain things you do in a calendar year that actually won't bear fruit for a few years, but they will, and they will for a long time and in the right way. My favorite statistic, which you would have missed if you weren't there this year, we collaborated with Forbes on their high net worth consumer survey this year. And the best stat that came out of that was that 83% of consumers seek bartender recommendation before buying a drink. 83%. Wow. That's like almost everyone checks in with the bartender before deciding what to drink. Right? Before deciding what gets picked up and poured. That's huge. That's an enormous amount of influence that the bartender still has. Mm-hmm. And that bartender needs to be educated, right? Informed broadly about categories, about spirits. But there's also an opportunity to get to that bartender and influence, right? With the sort of the fun stuff. And that's sort of the ambassador work that we were talking about earlier. So it's a really important area that brands should be investing in, I still believe, but it's hard to generate the ROI, but stats and data like that certainly support the cause.
Yeah, it is tough to go, hey, I'm going to go, well, I was saying I'm in a small market in Victoria. We've chatted about you coming to Victoria a number of times. I know you have been before, but it was one of those things is like, come to Victoria and spending 6 months in Vancouver and mm-hmm. seeing the brand money that was spent in Vancouver with the less ROI than if you came and spent half the money in Victoria, just because the trip was a little bit longer and you had to spend an extra day. There's a couple of brand ambassadors now that sort of go, I need to go to Victoria. Every time I come to the West Coast, I'm going to Victoria and making sure I touch that market, because while we're small, we're mighty, and we still are. We still have some great cocktail bars here.
No, you absolutely do. And kudos to you for having a big part in building that up, your passion and your hard work, honestly.
I'm just the old guy in the room. That's all it is.
No, you've done a lot for Victoria. You know that.
Well, I'm really excited. Like when the announcement for Tales of the Cocktail came out saying that you were the executive director, I was like, this is a really great move. And it's great to get a little backstory about what that transition, that move sort of made, because I kind of feel the same way a little bit on a lesser scale, because people go, when are you going to go back behind the bar? When are you going to start bartending? It's like, I do not miss the romance of bartending. I don't miss 12-hour shifts. I don't miss wet feet. I don't miss like sore joints. I just love doing the work that I do now. So what we do is at the end of every podcast, I always do 5 deep podcast questions.
Okay.
You'll be fine. What is one lesson or experience that has shaped your perspective the most, and how do you carry that forward in your life?
I think I'm going to go back a long way, and this is when I opened the bar in London, apartment 195. One of my mentors there told me to make your weakness your strength. And I think that was just not to shy away from something that you're not comfortable, and have the bravery just to think, what if that thing became my superpower? Because it can happen, and it does happen with hard work. Just because you're not given a gift doesn't mean you can't do something. So that one always stays with me.
That's a great one. If you could leave one lasting message or piece of wisdom for the world, what would it be and why?
Gosh, put me on the spot with that one. Let's see. I think it would be to be kind to one another. I mean, that I know it's a bit cliche, but you sort of never know what people are going through. And I think we've all had moments where people have just been nice to us, and it's got you through something, whether it's just the day or something a bit more serious. So I think it would just be that. I mean, if everyone did that, we wouldn't have half the problems we do right now.
I've always said you're literally the nicest person in the whole industry. Looking back at your journey, what is something you wish you had understood earlier in life?
Oh, just one thing? I think probably that, like, we're all one of one, right? We're one of a kind. So just be you. We don't have to try and be someone else. There's no perfect version of a human or a brand ambassador or a bartender or a girl from London who moves to New York and does things. Like, the world needs all of us to be the best us individually that we are. So I think I certainly spent a lot of time kind of thinking I wasn't good enough or should be like other people too much, or, looking a certain way, or that, I mean, social media doesn't help with that these days. So I think, learning that just be you, and be the best you. And if everyone did that, again, the world would be a better place.
How do you define success, and has your definition of it changed over time?
Yes, it's changed over time. I think with wisdom and maturity, I think I've had a bit more patience with the different types of success that you can have. It's certainly no longer about being right. I think maybe early on in one's life, certainly for me, it was about being right. But I sort of definitely have learned during my time as an ambassador leading a team that it's not about being right, it's about getting to a good place for everyone. So when you're able to let go of the desire to sort of be right and prove something, and just contribute to a good situation for as many as possible, then that's actually a better measure of success.
What do you hope your legacy will be, and what steps are you taking to build it? I think, if I sort of say thus far, I'm really proud of the team I built, of ambassadors that I worked with, and the culture that I was able to inspire and build together with them. So probably something around that. That said, I think I'm still young enough to have a second wind. Obviously, I'm embarking on a brand new chapter now, which I hope is a long one. So there could be something about sort of impact to the industry, right? I've been so fortunate. I always sort of think I've been in the right place, the right time, from my time in London in the early 2000s when the cocktail renaissance was just starting, to coming over to New York at the forefront of that movement, to be in these incredible opportunities and spaces and places. So I think part of my legacy should be to give back and afford opportunities in a similar vein to as many as possible. And I think I'm in a good place to support that. I think I had to laugh because as I said, I had Dale on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I asked, what are you doing to build your legacy? And I was just like, I don't even know why I'm asking this question.
Yeah. What was your name again? And what are you doing right now?
But thank you so much for, I know that I've been trying to plan a little bit better for the podcast, but I've been podcasting really, really hard. And I should have got you probably before the Tales, but I'm so glad I got you after Tales and having you relax and everything. And so it's always great to have a good chat with you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's always lovely to catch up with you, and appreciate your questions, even the deep ones.
I'm really looking forward to what Tales is going to be like in the next couple of years.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for the support.
I'll talk to you real soon, Charlotte.
Thank you, Shawn. Thanks.
All right, Post Shifters, that's it for now. Keep your standards high, your spirits neat, and your team tighter than your forecast. Catch you next week on the Post Shift Podcast.